Alright, shalom, shalom. So let's see what I got going on right here first. All praise to the Most High, who's the head of my life. To make sure my video was working perfectly. So let's see what I got going on. It is. Hold on. So now let me. Alright. Now give me 1 second. And I'll be ready to get this away. This video, I'm going to do 2 videos. This video right here is going to be correcting some of the Hebrew Isrealite Doctrine. So let me... Alright, so now, I think I should be good and ready to rock and roll. We're just going to try to correct a little of this doctrine. Alright. Just to see if I can see some comments. Alright. Let me show you what's going on here. Try to set this up so I can see for some comments. Let me show you what's going on real fast. Y'all know this is my birthday weekend, so I had a busy weekend. But I finally got a little time to do this real fast. So let me just try to correct some of the doctrine. So let me show you what was going on. Me and this brother was having a discussion, and he wanted me to answer a few questions, and he did a lot of insinuating and etc. So now I told him once my house get clear, which it is, I can now answer the question. So now this brother is talking about me. He says, I got a brother trying to tell me that the days of the Gentiles have already been fulfilled. Aren't they still in rulership? So now, we're going to go exactly what this brother's talking about. Like I'm saying, y'all, if we're going to talk scriptures, we got to actually know scriptures. The Bible teaches one thing, and we're learning something different in America, and all I'm trying to do is get us back to the Bible. Now, once we get back into the true foundation of the Bible, and we come up with a plan or scenarios that we feel that can better our people, then that's one thing. But if we're just blankly abusing scriptures and etc. to bring forth false narratives, that's another thing. So what I'm trying to do is get rid of all of the abusiveness of scriptures and the bringing forth the false narratives and getting it back to the foundation of the Bible, and we grow from there. So now, this is exactly where the brother was going with this. All right, Luke 21, and this is where the brother was going with this. 24. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So now, first things first. What's the context? What is happening right here? What's happening? Okay. You see, even here, it tells you that this is Jesus foretelling the destruction of Jerusalem. And it actually explains it. It says, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of Judea depart out, and let not them that are in the countries entered thereinto. So during this time when the army is encompassing Jerusalem, no one is supposed to come into Judea, and all people listening to Christ is supposed to flee Judea. So now, these are the people that's listening to Christ, okay? Verse 22, for these be the days of vengeance, when the armies encompass Jerusalem. These be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So according to Christ, this is not me. According to Christ, during that 70 AD, because everybody know we fled to the mountains in 70 AD. During the 70 AD epic destruction of Jerusalem, during that monstrosity, what happened to our people, those was the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So, one thing, you cannot have the law of Moses after these days of vengeance, because all things written was going to be fulfilled during this time. That's one thing, okay? The new covenant and the new kingdom, the new heavens and earth, and etc., had to be fulfilled around this time, because according to Christ, all things written, where was the things written at? In the Torah and the Tanakh. All things written in the Old Testament was to be fulfilled during this time. This is very important, because people are telling you that you are cursed today. You are under a curse, and the Bible does not teach it. Once again, I'm talking about what the Bible teaches. I'm not talking about what somebody told you on YouTube or in the street. I'm telling you what the Bible teaches. So now, let's keep going. Let's keep reading about those events that occurred under the Roman army in 70 AD. Let's read about those events. So now, verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. See, this was future to Christ. Christ made this prediction around, 27, 30 AD, and this was fulfilled in 70 AD. So this was about 40 years into the future. So Christ is putting it in his future, not our future, but his future. So now, in those days, for there should be great distress in the land. Why? Because a war is coming, and wrath upon this people. Who were this people? The people in Jerusalem. Now, we can make it back to verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Who is they? This people. Where were this people located? In Jerusalem. Okay? So now, they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive. Led away captive from where? Where were they going to be led away captive from? From Jerusalem. Not Africa, not America, or not any other place. They were going to be led away captive from Jerusalem. And they shall be led away captive into all nations. And it says it again. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Until, when was Jerusalem going to stop being trodden down? So now, first of all, let's see what this word trodden is, okay? Let's look up trodden real fast. Let's real quick what trodden is. 24, sorry. Trodden down. To trample. Tread. Underfoot. A path. So they're going to be trampled. The path was going to be trampled. They were going to be trampled. Jerusalem was going to be trampled. A path was like a pathway, like them walking through it. So now, Jerusalem was going to be trodden down of the Gentiles. So, who was trampling Jerusalem? The armies. The armies were trampling Jerusalem. See? 70 AD. Rome came in. The Jews that listened to Christ fled into the mountains. The Jews that didn't listen to Christ stayed inside of Jerusalem. The Jews that did not listen to Christ were the wicked Jews. Once again, the wicked Jews are the ones that was taken captive. The Jews that listen, who will be called Christians, they are the ones that fled into the mountains. So now let's see what happened. Jerusalem was going to be trodden down of the armies or the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles or the times of the Roman army be fulfilled. The Roman army is not in Jerusalem right now, trampling and trotting it down. Let me say it again. The biblical Roman army is not in Jerusalem right now, trampling it down, trying and taking Israel captive. You can't have one without the other. The times of the Gentiles was going to occur during the trampling of Jerusalem, dealing with a war. So you can't skip one war and then another war come 100 years later, and then another war come 100 years later, and you still talking about, see, Jerusalem is still being trodden down. That's not what the Bible did. The Bible made this one occurrence. All of this is happening together. So now, let's see now in Scripture where we can see how long the times of the Gentile was supposed to last. Let's go. This is a prophecy about the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. So once you go to the book of Revelation 11, and let's read 11, and we're going to read 1 and 2. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. Verse 2, But the court, which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not. Why? For it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. So we have Jerusalem being trodden down by the Gentiles 42 months, which will be like 3.5 years. 42 months, the time of the Gentiles were going to be 42 months. After 42 months, the siege was over. This is 3.5 years. So, this prophecy is about the temple and the holy city being tread underfoot. So let's see if we can see what the word tread right there means. 11 and 2. You see, it's the same exact word. Trample, a path, tread, down, underfoot. It's the same exact word of trodden that was in Luke 21:24. This is the same exact event. Christ prophesied it in Luke, and then he revealed it to John in Revelation. This is what knowing the Bible does. It takes away all of the confusion. So you don't have to put the time of the Gentiles in our future, because now you know it was only going to last 42 months, which was the siege of Jerusalem. Now I wonder if they have it here. And they all have it here too. 3.5, see? 3.5 years times times and a half a time, which was in Daniel. So now, this is all 3.5 years. 3.5 years, and in Luke 21, it's called the time of the Gentiles. The Bible, all prophecy was to be fulfilled during this time. This is the last captivity. Deuteronomy 28:68. Israel, pretty much the southern kingdom, going to Egypt on slave ships, cannot go past this. It cannot go past Jerusalem being encompassed and sieged by Rome. Okay? Jerusalem, not Africa or wherever else they want to go, but Jerusalem. So now, let's go to Deuteronomy, where people twist scriptures. I think it's Deuteronomy 4. Let's see if I can find it here. Deuteronomy 4, and let's see. Deuteronomy 4. Let me find my other one. I think it was in 30. But anyway, let's read Deuteronomy 4 first. Deuteronomy 4:1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you. So this is them getting the law. For to do them, that ye may live and go in and possess the land. So the law was for Israel to live and go and possess the land. So the law and the land and them living works hand in hand. But it's going to tell you later. Which the Lord God of your fathers giveth you. Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you. So you can't be talking about Egypt is really America, and it really means you going into America from Africa. You just added to the words which was commanded. Neither shall ye diminish out from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. So now, let's see if we can see. Let's keep reading. Now, let's go to verse 4 now. But ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive, every one of you, this day. Verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Once again, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Was they going to possess Africa? No. Was they going to possess America? No. They was going to possess the land of Canaan and the surrounding areas. The law was for them to do in the land they were going to possess. So you can't take the law out of the land they were going to possess, because it was created for them to do in the land they were going to possess, which was the land of Canaan and the little surrounding cities and etc. Those lands, the other side of the Jordan. So now, let's go to Deuteronomy 15. Now let's go to hold on. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and go to 26. Let me see if I'm fine. Thou not morning, look in the holy habitation and eat tithes. Just trying to show that this is all supposed to be done in the land. This the day the Lord has commanded thee to do these statutes and judgment. Thou shalt therefore keep and do them with all thy heart and with all thy soul. No, that ain't it. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. I guess we might was going to go to the curses in 28. I'm trying to see if there are any more places. And people don't even talk about the curses that happens in Deuteronomy 27 anyway. Charge the people same day. All right, well, yeah, bet. So let's hit some of the curses that people skip. Deuteronomy 27. And we're just going to restart at verse number 9, right? And Moses and the priest, the Levites, spake unto all Israel, saying, Take heed and hearken, O Israel, this day thou art become the people of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt therefore obey the voice of the Lord thy God, and do his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. So now we see, once again, this is all about the law of Moses, right? And Moses charged the people the same day, saying, These shall stand upon Mount Gerizim to bless the people when ye are come over Jordan. Simeon and Levi, so pretty much the 12 tribes of Israel, right? But they were going to get, the charge was the blessings. He was telling them all of the blessings that they was going to get when they crossed over Jordan, which was the promised land. They were supposed to get the promised land. That was the blessing. But now they get hit with some curse. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image. Cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark. So this is about what they was going to be cursed if they did on the opposite side of Jordan in the promised land, right? And then there's something about the stranger, perverted the judgment of the stranger and the fatherless and the widows and blah blah this. Sorry, not blah blah, but you get what I'm saying. So now let's go into the big money now. Deuteronomy 28. And I'm just going to read 1 and 2, and then we're going to go to the curses. And it shall come to pass, if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee high above all nations on the earth, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. And look, blessed, I'm going to read 3. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. So now, what city? What city is they talking about? They were going over to possess the promised land. So we know that they had to do all of the wars and kicking out the Hivites and the Amorites and the Jebusites and the Ezites and the Hivites and the Hittites. You know, all of those ites, they had to kick them out. But once that was done, they were going to be blessed in that city or in the cities that they had. But now, let's see how close the curses are to the land. And I guess I can read verse 12 too. And the Lord shall open upon thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. So all of this is the blessings that they get in the land they were going to possess, right? So now, let's look at some of the curses. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now listen, the curses is just the opposite of the blessings. That's all it is. Curse shall thou be in the city. The city that they was going to bring up, and it already had houses and stuff there from the earlier civilizations that were there that they uprooted. But now, those same cities in the land of Canaan and the surrounding places were going to be cursed. The fields was going to be cursed. The baskets and the stores, the fruits of the bodies, the fruits of thy land. Once again, what was thy land? The land they was going to possess. Not America, not Africa, but the land they was going to possess. So now, let's see if we can get to some 28. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. So right now, verse 21, we see the Most High is, well, from the Most High's words, we have Moses now telling them that they were going to, the curse was going to them and them be taken from the land they were going to possess. The lands they was going to possess was the land of Canaan and the surrounding areas. Now, the curse is, you will be consumed off that land. Once again, not Africa. The transatlantic slave trade does not fit here because the curse was for them to be consumed off the land they were going to possess. The law was for them to do in the land they were going to possess. And if they did not do the law in the land they were going to possess, then they was going to get kicked out of the land they were going to possess. So now let's keep reading. More of the things that shows you it's all about the land. Verse 24, the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust, from heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. Now where are they fleeing from? Off their land. They're running off of their land due to their enemies coming in. Christ used the same thing as a blessing in the New Testament. In the New Testament, when Rome came in, because we just read it, when Rome came in to destroy Jerusalem, Christ told them to flee into the mountains. So this is grace. This is a blessing from Christ. Before Christ came in, this was a curse, them having to flee when the enemies came in. Once again, when the enemies came in, they had to flee. That was considered a curse. When Christ came on the scene, he told them to flee. That would have been considered a blessing, which was called the law that was written into the book of life. But that is a different story. But now, let's see what else we can read. Thou shalt betroth a wife which is in the land, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt dwell in. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Look, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors, you have thy land, thou labor, right? The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. This is actually what happened during the Babylonian captivity. But, well, one of the instances. The other ones was, first the Assyrians, then the Babylonians. But anyway, or the Syrians for the northern, you have the Babylonians came in for the southern. But right here, you have the king. Where would the king be at? In the land. So the king in the land was going to be brought into another nation, which once again is them leaving out the land. So now, let's see if we can keep going. All the tree that shall, the fruit of thy land shall be, let's see. Therefore, thou shalt bring the nation against these. Here we go right here. Verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates. This will be in the land they was going to possess, until thy height and fence walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee unto all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God had given thee. So now, throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. What land did the Lord give to the Israelites? This is the promised land. Let's see here. Wherein thy enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. And we read this. In fact, let's read 55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat, because he had nothing left him in the siege and in straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. And we read in Luke 21, there was going to be great distress in the land during the armies coming in to destroy Jerusalem. So, once again, Luke 21 is just the curses. The last time it happened, which was the last siege. But anyway, I think y'all understand what's going on now. I'm pretty sure y'all can see that all of this is about the land. Verse 63, and it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. Once again, the curses dealt with all sieges. Every curse, all of the curse was dealing with warfare. All of the curses was dealing with warfare and the Israelites being sieged. All curses. So the curses wasn't after slavery. The curses was what led to slavery and then you leaving. That's the last of the curse. You're being plucked off from the land into all the other nations. So you don't have curses when you get plucked off the land and go to the all other nations. The curses don't come then. The curses led up to you going to all of the nations. because you violated the Torah in the land. Once again, you cannot be a slave outside of the land talking about you being cursed. No, the curse is why you are outside of the land. But once again, the curse happened from the land unto all nations. They didn't go from one land unto another land unto another land. That's not what the Bible says. So now, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all the people from one end of the earth to another. And verse 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And this is where they try to make this be about America right here. Now, we done read through all of the curses. They were going to be plucked out of their land. But for some reason, in order to make this doctrine stick, this is actually them coming into America from Africa. You see what you see? I mean, you see the fallacies of this doctrine. You got to do something totally different than what the Bible says. So now, I just want to show y'all. Let's just look at a commentary real fast. I know a lot of y'all don't like commentaries, but what they do is they usually go into history. And I love history. So they pretty much cut off the middleman. And let's see if this has anything about that. Worst of all, let's see. Let's see what it says. All right. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. This does not refer to their being carried to Egypt in ships as different from the way by which they had come out from it, but simply to the fact that they should be carried back thither, contrary to what was expected when they so triumphantly came forth from it. There you should be sold, literally. Shall sell yourselves. That's what it says in Hebrew. Give yourselves up to be sold as slaves. Egypt may be here, as Hagensberg suggests, the type of future oppressors, but there seems no reason why this passage should not be taken literally. It is a fact. Once again, it is a fact. After the capture of Jerusalem by Titus, this is what was going on in Luke 21:24. Once again, this was what going on in Luke 21:24. After the capture of Jerusalem by Titus, the Jews were in large numbers carried into Egypt, and there subjected to most ignominious bondage. And in the time of Hadrian, multitudes of Jews were sold into slavery. And it tells you Josephus, Jews, 692. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's War of the Jews, so I'm not going to try to find it real. Let's see if we can find another one. We don't have nothing. Let's see, Adam Clark, he don't have. All right, here we go. Let's see what this says. And no man shall buy you. Even the Romans thought it a reproach to have a Jew for a slave. They had been so despicable to all mankind. When Jerusalem was taken by Titus, many of the captives, which were about 17 years of age, were sent into the works in Egypt. See Josephus? Okay, finally. Antiquities, Book 12, 100. Okay, well, I happen to have a Josephus, so let me find it real fast. Let's just read a little history. What happened in the first century? See if we can find Josephus. Antiquity of the Jews. Josephus. Here we go right here. Antiquities of the Jews. What book it says? It says Book 12. It said like 100, didn't it? Now let's see if I can go back real fast. Let's see. Antiquities of the Book 12, 100. Okay. In fact, hold on. I have a copy of Josephus. I got the real book. So let's see what it looks like. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 12, and it has 100. And then go through it. Let's see if I can find it real fast. I don't know why I have 100 there. Let's see. Hello, y'all. Give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can find this. Book 12, 100. War. Book 5, chapter. Yeah, I already do that. Book 12, 10, 1 and 2. War, book 6, chapter 9. Sorry, y'all. That first reference wasn't good, so let me go to War of the Jews. Alright. War of the Jews. Book 6, chapter 9. I just want to read the history behind it for y'all. Book 6, chapter 9. And it says section 2. Alright, bet. So now, we see it says, what injunction Caesar gave when he was come within the city, the number of the captives of those that perished in the siege, and also concerning those that had escaped into the subterranean caverns, among whom were the tyrants Simon, and John themselves. But anyway, section 2. Let's just read a little history. Just read a little history. This happened in the first century. This is what Luke 21, 24, and all of that was talking about. So now, and now since his soldiers was already quite tired with killing men, and yet there appeared to be a vast multitude still remaining alive, Caesar gave orders that they should kill none but those that were in arms, and oppose them that should and oppose them, but should take the rest alive. But together with those whom they had orders to slay, they slew the aged and the infirm. But for those that were in their flourishing age, and who might be useful to them, they drove them together into the temple, and shut them up within the walls of the court of the women, over which Caesar set one of his freedmen, as also Fronto, one of his own friends, which last was to determine everyone's fate according to his merits. So this Fronto slew all of those that had been seditious and robbers, who were impeached one by another. But of the young men, he chose out the tallest and most beautiful, and reserved them for the triumph. And as for the rest of the multitude, that were above 17 years old. He put them into bonds and sent them into the Egyptian mines. Titus also sent a great number into the provinces as to present them that they might be destroyed upon the theaters and of the sword of the beast by those that were under 17 years old, but those that were under 17 years old of age were sold for slaves. Now let's go to verse 30. Section 3. See, this is Luke 21 and 24. And you will be carried away captive. This is Luke 21:24. This is the last captivity. So let's explain how a biblical captivity looked compared to what we call the transatlantic slave trade. Now, the number of those that were carried captive during this whole war was collected to be 97,000, and was the number of those that perished during the whole siege 1,100,000, the greater part of whom were indeed of the same nation with the citizens of Jerusalem. Let's see if we can find something else. And later on, Josephus says during the whole 3.5-year siege, over 1 million Jews were killed. So this is just talking about that last siege. And I wish we could find it also in the Antiquities, because it goes into a little bit more detail about what all transpired. But you literally have, sorry, let me go back here. You literally have Jews taken from Jerusalem to Egypt in history, in the first century. But we teach this is about us in Africa coming over to America. You see? This is what I'm trying to get away from. The falsehood, the not knowing history. Because it hurts when you don't know history. So now, we're taking it. They take us to Joel. Joel 3. Let's go to Joel real fast. So let me see. Hold on. Let me see real fast. Sorry, y'all. This is me. All right. So now he said, I got a brother trying to tell me that the days of the Gentiles have already been fulfilled. Okay. I touched on that one to show that there was only 3.5 years, which the siege of Jerusalem lasted 3.5 years. Let's see if I can find what else the brother said. Because I want to touch on everything that he said. I don't want to get ahead of myself. See, that's the same one. Alright, here we go. Okay. He talked about the curses, about the women having bald hair, and I showed him that was dealing with mourning. The curse of women having bald hair has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with this. Women having bald hair has nothing to do with none of that. That's not what the curse was about. And he pulled from Isaiah 3:24. And it should come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there should be stink. And instead of a girdle, a rent. And instead of well-set hair, baldness. And instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth. And burning instead of breathing. And he got this from that, because that would be the modern Hebrew Israelite breakdown and it will be something carnal because they are disconnected from the Eastern culture. So they automatically mean, hey, that means women's hair won't grow. Okay, well, what I did was, let's see if I can find it real fast. And I gotta say this. Hold on, y'all, let me find it real fast. Oh, you see, there was a long conversation, but I think I'm gonna get to it now. It was about, I responded to a lady. Alright, so what I said was, sis, these men really don't know the meaning behind the word. They're just reading words and automatically think, how can I make this be about America 21st century? Not understanding the customs of the East where the scriptures originated. This verse is about lamenting, and Zion wasn't the only ones that had baldness. It was the way they showed limitations, hence the sackcloth. This brother wants you to believe this is about women hair falling out. These women would make their own heads bald because they are mourning, not because some curse of bad hair. Since you should not agree to such madness, I will provide you some scriptures to show you this custom, and I will provide a scripture to show Tyrus, which is not Israel, did the same thing. So you go to Isaiah 22, ye shall, in 9 through 12, ye shall, and so ye have seen also the breaches of the city of David, that they are many, and ye gathered together the waters of the lower pool, and ye have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses have ye broken down to fortify the wall. Ye made also a ditch between the two walls for the water of the old pool, but ye have not looked not looked unto the maker thereof, neither had respect unto him that fashioned it long ago. And in that day did the Lord God of hosts call to weeping, and to mourning, and to baldness, and to girding with sackcloth. See, this is all about mourning. Amos 8:10. And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head. And I will make it as the mourning of an only son. And the end, sorry, my mouse is tripping, and the end thereof as a bitter day. Micah 1:14 through 15. 14 through 16. Oh, I'm just going to read 16. Make thee bald, and poll thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge the baldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity from thee. More lamentations. Um, Lamentations 2:10. The elders of the daughters of Zion sit upon the ground and keep silence. They have cast up dust upon their heads. They have girded themselves with sackcloth. The virgins of Jerusalem hang down their heads to the ground. So that was more about the sackcloth. And then you got Tyrus right here. Ezekiel 27:30-31. And shall cause their voice to be heard against thee, and shall cry bitterly, and shall cast up dust upon their heads. They shall wallow themselves in the ashes, and they shall make themselves utterly bald for thee, and gird them with sackcloth, and they shall weep for thee with bitterness of heart and bitter wailing. So now hopefully we understand that not the baldness of heads, dealing with Zion, etc., was about mourning. That's what they did. They shaved their heads off to show that they was mourning and put on sackcloth. It wasn't about them having bad hair and the Most High taking their hair out. That's what perms do. It has nothing to do with the Most High. So now, I hit that. Then he wanted me to hit Joel 3. And, where's it at? That sold you to the Grecians. Where's it at? Here you go, 3:6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Verse 8. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, and they should sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. So now, what they want to do is, they connect this to the transatlantic slave trade. They say, see, they sold the black people to the white people. And they don't understand that Joel, he lived at a certain time, right? He lived at a certain time period. So you have to go into history first to see when Joel lived, biblical history, to see when Joel lived, to see what exactly was going on in ancient Israel or ancient Jerusalem at the time, in order to connect the dots. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be thinking that Joel was actually prophesying about the transatlantic slave trade. But now, hopefully we understand, though, that their border will be the promised land. It wouldn't be um, Africa anyway. But anyway, let's look at some commentators. Let's see what they got. Sold unto the Grecians. These were the descendants of Javan. With them the Tyranians tracted. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if the pulpit say anything about it. 3:6. Alright, here we go, right here. The part which the Phoenicians had in the transaction was the purchase and sale of the Jewish captives who had fallen into the hands of the Philistine conquerors. The mention of Grecians or sons of Javan bring for the first time the Hellenic and Hebrew races into contact. A contact sad and sorrowful for the latter, that you may remove them from far from their border. This was at once the climax of their cruelty and the aggravation of their crime. The object with their enemies had in view in selling the Hebrew captives to the sons of Javan and Ionian Greeks of Asia Minor was but the remote exile to prevent the possibility of their return to their own land. The historical reference is thought by some to be the event narrated in 2 Chronicles 21-16. Look, moreover, the Lord stirred up against Jeroham, the spirit of the Philistines, in 2 Corinthians 21:17, and they came up into Judah and brake into it and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also and his wives, so there was never a son left. So in other words, they're linking this back to what happens in 2 Chronicles, where it is written, the Lord stirred up, okay, and his son kings also. So now let's see about the selling, right? Well, I guess we can go here too. Well, behold, I will raise them up out of the place whither ye have sold them. Instead of raised, some prefer awakened, roused, or to stir up. The Judeans will be roused up out of the countries into which they had been sold and restored to their own land, and the measure which they had meted to them, meted and turned to their enemies. The deliverance mentioned here may be exemplified, if not realized in part, in the time of Alexander the Great and his successors, when Jewish captives in many lands were set at liberty. And then you can see it, King Cyrus also. Thus Demetrius, in his letter to Jonathan, writes, I will make free all those Jews who have been made captives and slaves in my kingdoms, and will return your recompense upon your own head, better rendered, and will turn back your doing upon your head. A righteous retaliation awaited Philistines, and the Phoenicians. So our Philistines and the Phoenicians. But Let's see here. And I will sell your sons and your daughters to the hands of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them into the Sabians, to a people far off. The Hebrew expression does not mean to sell by the hand of, as it is erroneously rendered by some, but to sell into the hand, that is, to deliver over into a power of the children of Judah. The Sabians were the inhabitants of Sheba in Arabia, Felix, a people actively engaged in trade and related to the Palestinians in the south as to the Grecians in the north. They were a people a far off, or more so, in an easterly direction as the Greeks of Ionia in a westerly. And so Kimchi, they were far off from the land, from their land, more than the Javanites. As the Tyrrhenians sold Jewish prisoners to the maritime people of the far west, so the Jews should sell Tyrians to traders of the far east. The Septuagint or LXX 70 mistake the translated. Okay, they sell them if not understood. Blah blah blah. We may find their fulfillment in such events as the following: the defeat of the Philistines by Uzziah, when he went forth and warred against the Philistines, and break down the wall of Gath, the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities about Ashbod. And among the Philistines, their defeat also by Hezekiah, when he smote the Philistines even unto Gaza, and the borders thereof, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city, and the temporary subjection of portions of Palestinians, the Palestinians and the Phoenicians' territory to the Jews in Maccabean times, together with the siege and the destruction of their cities, as narrated by the Jewish historian Josephus and in the first book of Maccabees. We also learn from Diodorus that 13,000 captive Tyrrhenians were sold into slavery after the victory of Alexander the Great. Oh, that was all a mouthful. Let's see here. That ain't nothing. I like history. So you got here, they still talking about the Phoenicians that did it to the Judites. Civilized tribe. You see Amos 1:9, Ezekiel, Maccabees, Second Maccabees. And Joel 38. A commercial nation of Arabia, the sons of Cush. See, it's showing it right here about Sheba and Seba. Okay, don't got nothing about that right there. Let's see if Adam did something. He used to be pretty good. Where's Adam? Here we go, Adam Clark. He says, I will say that when Alexander took Tyre, he reduced into slavery all the lower people and the women. Says the 30,000 of them were sold. This guy destroyed, so they subdued the others of Phoenicia and all wars. In all these wars, says Coleman. Okay, so we got a historian, I think, right here. And all these wars, says Coleman, the Jews who obeyed the Persians did not neglect to purchase Phoenician slaves, whom they sold again to the Sabians or Arabs. Arabs, I want to say it. But I'm just trying to show y'all this is a fulfillment in history. This is fulfilled in the Old Testament. Okay? This is a fulfillment in the Old Testament. So for y'all looking at Joel 3 and 8 and Joel 3 and 6 to be about the transatlantic slave trade or what happened in Africa, you have a fulfillment in history. And that's the main part. That's where our people suffer the most from. Not knowing history, not caring about commentaries who speak on history, not purchasing historical books that speak on history. So now everybody's out here trying to make everything about our history that we know, the last 400 years. We know a lot about the things that occurred during the last 400 years because that's what we use in order to preach and teach our doctrine. So, we are studied upon that information, but when we're talking about thousands of years ago, we don't worry about that information, but I'm here to tell you that's where all of the fulfillment of Scripture is at. It's in all of the information that you're not worried about. All of the commentaries and say, don't go into that and stuff, they try to see the whole picture. They're not stuck on a specific doctrine, some of them. So now, I think, here we go. I think I have showed everything. I think I went to the transatlantic slave trade, how they came to Deuteronomy 28. The time of the Gentiles was only 3.5 years. The hair, ridiculous. Joel 3. I showed the fulfillment of all things, Luke 21, 20 through 22. So I think we're done here. I think that's it. Alrighty. I'm done with this. Now I want to actually go into what I want to talk about. The deity of Christ. So, shalom.